And he held that shotgun up, and when he did, I went down like this. And the shot came, you can see that little finger won't ever bend again. It came across the back of my head, went across the back of my head.
So he shot above your head as you were ducked down.
As I started ducking down. If I hadn't have ducked.
Oh my God, he'd have shot you in the head.
Uh-huh.
Well, hello, everybody out there in podcast and YouTube land and world. Welcome back to episode 19. Of Coffee. 19 of the Coffee and Ketchup podcast. The engine? That's true.
Yeah.
The little engine that tries. We have got a very empowering, powerful episode today. A good representation of a growing problem in America. And just to kind of preface it, I had no idea, but October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'm going to be honest, before I looked into it for this episode, I had no idea. I think I kind of just sit in the addiction world so much that I know those statistics and rattle them off. I had no idea that this is quite the problem that it was, or that it is, I'm sorry. But let me read you what I got off the line real quick. So again, as I was saying, October was first declared as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in 1989. Since then, October has been a time to acknowledge domestic violence survivors and be a voice for its victims. Domestic violence is prevalent in every community and affects all people, regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. Physical violence is often accompanied by emotionally abusive and controlling behavior as part of a much larger systematic pattern of dominance and control. Domestic violence can result in physical injury, psychological trauma, and even death. The devastating consequences of domestic violence can cross generations and last a lifetime. Although there has been substantial progress in reducing domestic violence, this is crazy. An average of 20 people are physically abused by intimate partners every minute. This equates to more than 10 million abuse victims annually. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been physically abused by an intimate partner. And 1 in 5 women and 1 in 7 men have been severely physically abused by an intimate partner. Millions of Americans live in daily silent fear within their own homes. And like I said, I had no idea that it was that prevalent, in the country we live in until reading all that. So we have got a powerful story today from a domestic violence survivor, and we are proud and we are blessed to be able to bring you that story today. If you will, do you mind if the two of you will introduce yourselves real quick?
I'm Kim Kite, and I am a domestic violence survivor.
I'm Leslie Queen, and I am a domestic violence survivor and a 911 dispatcher director.
So we're going to do, this is such a cool opportunity, cool story. So Kim, we're going to kind of go through a little bit of Kim's backstory and then up to the event where everything was kind of falling apart. And we were talking about 1 in 5 women are severely injured. We're going to talk about that night and how just so happens, God was there to have Leslie answer the phone call when she was able to call 911. And it's such a powerful story. But thank you both for coming on. We are, like I said, extremely grateful and honored to have the two of you on today. And Kim, I guess I'd like to start with, in an effort to maybe relate to somebody who might be listening who is unsure, to think that they're in an unhealthy relationship or a potentially violent domestic partnership, anything like that. Will you kind of tell us, because I'm sure, you didn't get married to somebody with it, being how it ended up.
No.
I'm sure it progressed from there. Will you kind of start us a little bit before the incident and the night in January and kind of tell us when it started to get bad and kind of how it led up to that?
Okay, around November of '07, right. I noticed Brian wasn't sleeping on a regular schedule. He was up all night or up all day. It was, if he worked night shift, he was a nursing supervisor. And it's, things just started just catching my eye that something wasn't right. And I found out he was on steroids, growth hormone, diet pills. And no telling what else, because
Sure.
he was available to get whatever he wanted wherever. And that's really how it started. And I asked him to leave at that point in time to move
Okay.
out of the house,
Right, of your house.
my house.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Sure. So how did that go? I'm sure that was not very well received.
No, it wasn't, because he had two boys,
Mm.
young boys, and they lived a lot of their time with us.
Okay.
And so it wasn't easy for me to ask them to leave, but I knew I couldn't live like that. I knew I couldn't live like that anymore. That something had to change.
Sure. Sure. Now, so obviously, the signs of drug use and even steroid use, because steroids have a lot of the same effects that meth does. So that's a good red flag to be aware of. Any kind of drug use, any kind of unusual sleeping patterns is things to be aware of. Not necessarily leading to domestic violence, but it's definitely good things to be aware of from that standpoint or a drug use standpoint. How were a lot of y'all's conversations and maybe some of the emotional abuse at this point in time?
He was from South Africa,
Okay.
so sometimes I never knew kind of what he was saying or whatever was really
Gotcha.
like it, what it was, but he would do just weird things. Like with the boys, even he would go out back behind the house and they would do these little bomb things and let them, build them, and they would go off and stuff, scare me to death. But anyway, I didn't think the boys needed to be around something like that. And then, like one day, we had bought a new dryer, and he decided to bring it home, and he did something crazy. I don't know. I wasn't there. I was at work. He did something crazy, and it fell off the back of the truck. So had to buy another one. I mean, it was just things.
Sure.
And
But like the verbal abuse and the emotional abuse was ongoing even after he left.
right.
Like he was harassing you. I remember you telling me it made it difficult for y'all to work together and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just to be clear for everybody, y'all worked together.
Yes,
So you
we
kicked him
did.
out in November, but y'all still saw each other pretty regularly just from having to work together.
Right.
And can you tell me, so that was in November, how long had y'all been together prior to that in November?
A year and a half.
Okay, so y'all were together a year and a half, and then you asked him to move out in November, okay. I was pointing to the timeline there.
Right.
So how was the work environment with him? What were some of the things that were going on?
Well, I worked the regular 8 to 5 shift, and he worked different ones. I mean, he could work 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. It was just according to what he was scheduled.
Okay. And if y'all were to see each other in passing or be on the same shift, what would that kind of interaction be like?
It was okay most of the time at work.
Okay.
Okay.
Until the very end.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, and I'm sure, already being, having to leave the house, I'm sure he was trying to keep that job at all costs. I'm sure he was not trying to. Of course, that would put everything out in the open too. If he
Right.
starts becoming emotionally abusive or physically violent at work, now everybody knows it's not a secret anymore. Okay. So when did So you said it happened in January. Is there anything else that happened between him, between you telling him to leave and the incident in January?
I filed for divorce in
Okay.
December, and he got the papers, I believe, like the day before that this happened.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay, so that set him off.
yes,
Okay.
that set him off. Plus, he had been to a party that night, and I didn't know. I had actually been to a baby shower and came home, and he had been at a party drinking. Well, he couldn't drink because he didn't know when to stop.
Okay.
So, yeah, that is what I think. But I also think that he had been in my house that day while I was at work. This was on a Friday. And I'm pretty sure he had been in my house and put stuff in my house that I didn't see, that I didn't catch. Because one of my neighbors had started to the lake and came by my house, and one of my bedroom windows was up. And they were like, "Why has Kim got a bedroom window up in January? What is going on?"
Right.
And they didn't say anything because they thought, well, maybe she's just there, and you know.
Right.
But undoubtedly, he had been there. He had been there.
So he'd probably come into the house Friday when you were at work and then left and went to this party and began drinking or doing whatever else he was doing.
Doing whatever he was doing.
So you come home from work, you don't realize he's been in the house, just a normal Friday night to you.
Yeah. And I went to a baby shower and came home.
Okay.
And that's all I had done.
Okay.
Oh, and another thing, he had called me that Friday at work. One of our girls that worked with us at work had died, and her funeral was supposed to be on Saturday. And he called me and asked me would I mind him sitting with me
At the funeral.
at the funeral. And I said, no, that's fine. I'll do that.
Wow.
Okay. So,
That's very telling of where you were at with your, I guess.
which is still very understanding.
Yeah, understanding
you know?
and gracious enough
Yeah.
to, trying to keep things civil.
Sure.
Yeah.
That kind of tells a whole lot about where you were at the moment.
Now, had he ever been physically violent to you before that night?
No,
Okay.
no.
This was
Just verbal, but never physical.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Which is still, to be clear for everybody, that is still domestic violence. There does not have to be a physical interaction.
The emotional
abuse
Yeah.
is abuse.
The verbal
And verbal
emotion,
abuse
yeah.
is abuse. And it is just as traumatic, as impactful as any physical violence.
Kim, let me ask you, in the verbal abuse, like if he had gotten on a tangent or whatever, did he ever threaten to hurt you in his words? Like anything like, I'm going to get you, I'm going to kill you? Or
No.
just verbally abusive, putting you down or just being,
Just putting me
putting you down?
and
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
So you couldn't see it coming as far as like the physical side of it. That
No.
you were oblivious to what was coming around the corner.
No, because if I'd have known, I wouldn't have been at that house.
Sure.
Right.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have been there.
Yeah.
Or at least I would have had somebody at home with
With
me.
you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I praise God for my daughter not being home.
Yes.
Absolutely.
She was off at college. She was 4 hours away. And he came in her bedroom window. And there's no doubt in my mind that he would have shot her. None.
Wow.
Well, thank God, yes, definitely, that she was 4 hours away. So, and this all happened that Friday night?
Right.
Okay, the Friday night. So you go to the baby shower, you come back. Last you had spoken with him, Y'all had agreed to sit at the funeral together, still trying to be civil. What were you doing? And you said he came in through your daughter's window. So, kind of take us through that night the best you can, if you will.
Okay. Oh, that night it changed my life forever. Forever.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure.
I'm going to say, Leslie, and you might know different. I'm going to say it was around 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And I was asleep, and I heard something break. And then my cat made this awful screech, like I'd never heard that cat do before, but it woke me up. And I jumped up out of the bed and looked across the hallway, and there stood somebody with a shotgun. Well, I couldn't see who it was because I didn't have my glasses or my contacts on. And I screamed and started running to the back of our house where I could possibly be able to get out.
Get out, yeah.
And he screamed, "Stop." And I thought, and I said to him, "What in the hell are you doing here?" You know?
So when you heard the voice, you knew who it was.
Yeah.
Then.
I knew
Gotcha.
who it was. So I was in a bathroom that's like has 2 doors to it.
Sure.
And so I was in the middle of that bathroom, and he said, "Stop." Well, then I realized who it was, so I stopped. And he held that shotgun up, and when he did, I went down like this. And the shot came, you can see that little finger won't ever bend again. It came across the back of my head, went across the back of my head.
So he shot above your head as you were ducked down.
As I started ducking down. If I hadn't have ducked.
Oh my God, he'd have shot you in the head.
Well, then he took that shotgun and started beating me everywhere until that shotgun bit in two.
God.
And some of this I don't remember, but he did throw me on the bed, and he asked where my pistol was. Well, I knew exactly where it was. I wasn't going to tell him.
Sure.
So that made him start to go look through the house for that. And what he didn't know was I had put a phone in that bedroom after he left in November. Wow. And that's when I picked it up and called 911.
Now, it was a house phone,
House
a landline,
phone,
so
yes.
you were able to get to the phone, dial 911, and he's somewhere in the house looking for the pistol.
Right. Right.
Because his shotgun is now, it's probably
It
not.
doesn't even function.
Yeah. It's
No,
not
it's
functioning.
not. It was bent into, they said.
But at what point was it? Okay, so the first time you called, and then you had run out, remember?
Yeah.
And then you came back in.
Yeah. I called, and I don't think.
Because the initial call you called, my partner answered.
Right.
But I heard the scream. And that's when I said, we always call back, of course, for 911
Sure.
calls, hang-ups or whatever. But for that call, because I grew up in domestic violence, and I've dealt with domestic violence in my teenage years. So I knew, like, it's just scream like, I don't know, it's just different.
You knew what was happening on
yeah,
that
I
end
mean,
of
I
that
just
phone.
knew.
Right.
And so, like, I kept calling back and I think I called, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 times before I got you. But he was sitting beside her.
Yeah. I was able to get outside one time. I unlocked like 3 different locks on my front door, and I got out, but I passed out.
Oh.
I'm sure.
And I couldn't get to my neighbors. I was trying to get to my neighbor's house, and I passed out. And undoubtedly, he came out and got me
And drug you back in.
and drug me back in
Yeah.
and put me back on the bed. And he he did tell me, he said, I'm here to kill me and you. And he said, I may have already killed you. You have lost way too much blood. And I turned over and looked, and the pillows were soaked, the bed, the whole mattress was soaked. Everything.
So by the time I finally got Brian on the phone, and he was like, it's just a little domestic dispute. We're fine. I was like, where's the female that called? And I finally got to talk to Kim for a minute. Well, honestly, I thought she was drunk.
Yeah.
I'm
You
sure.
asked me.
Yeah, I asked her. I said, have you been drinking? You know, what's going on? At the time, I didn't know he had beat all the teeth out of her head.
Right.
You know, so I was like, I mean, I guess just being as, you know, stereotyping, because there's so much domestic violence that gets called in and they never do anything about it.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
so then when it really happens, it's kind of like the little boy that cried wolf. You're like, okay, are we going to do something about it today or not? You know,
Right.
but that scream, I knew. I just knew. I was like, there's no way I'm going to quit calling until somebody answers his phone. And finally, like I said, I got him. He didn't want to let me talk to her, and then I finally did, but he was sitting there coaching her, you know, and I just stayed on the phone with her as long as I could until they got there.
So you're talking to him, and then you start talking to her, and at the same time, you're
He's-
dispatching
I can
deputies
hear-
to the house?
oh,
Do you
yeah.
know where they're at the time?
Yes.
I mean, you know where they're at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But you could hear him in the background, you know, coaching her to say, you know, don't, everything's fine, this, that, and the other. And, I mean, but I knew everything was not fine. So,
Right.
and then they get out there.
Oh, I did tell him, don't point that thing.
Oh yeah. While I'm on the phone, that's when it went dead. She said, "Don't point that at me, Brian." And I was like, "Oh, he's got a gun," and I'm letting the deputies know,
Right,
"Oh, he's got a
relay
gun." You know, step it up. Let's go.
Did you were just really saying that, Kim, just out of, hey, don't point the gun at me, but really what you were doing was letting Leslie know,
Right.
let the deputies know that he was armed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that.
And that's what he was
That-
doing. He
Ah,
was standing
right.
there
How that
pointing
worked
it at
out.
me.
Right.
Was it a
yeah.
pistol?
Yes.
So he
So
had
he had
He
Yeah, he
found
found
at
it.
this point.
Yeah.
Yep, he had found it. Yeah.
And that's when, as soon as she said that, the line went dead. Just dead. And I just kept calling back and kept calling back and kept calling back and got voicemails. And, but I just kept calling, and she was like, I mean, bleeding to death. And then when they got there, he put her on the front porch and pulled all she had on was a t-shirt and panties, and he pulled the t-shirt over her head and threw her on the front porch. Yeah.
Yeah. He, yeah, after I said, don't point that thing at me, I got beat again. Because,
Yeah, he hung the phone up, and then he started beating you again.
yeah,
with the pistol this time, or was it?
No,
was it
just-
fist?
and then I was in and out so much.
Uh-huh.
Imagine
I
so.
don't remember him putting me out. The only thing I do remember about that and what woke me up was he put the end of that pistol to my back, and it was hot, it was warm, and it woke me up enough. The front of my house goes out and then the steps go down. Well, he was like saying, well, I put her out, let's see if you'll come up here and get her. And he's standing there with a pistol telling the deputies this.
Yeah, he's like,
He's like,
Very standoffish.
yeah, oh yeah, it was a standoff. It was definitely a standoff.
How many deputies were there, Les? Do you know?
three
Three.
at that
There
point.
was 3 at that point, and then the ambulances staged until the scene's clear. So, but then once it got worse, because it got a lot worse during the standoff part. So one of the deputies was actually able to maneuver his way through the hedges, behind the hedges to the steps to grab her, but then it was still a standoff.
Sure.
And
So-
that's
so at
when
that
it
point
went
in time,
crazy.
They had gotten you, and it was just kind of a standoff between him and the deputies that were out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and I don't remember getting down those 4 or 5 steps.
Okay.
I don't remember that, but
No,
they-
because you didn't get down him. He toted you.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
See,
I would imagine not. You know, again, just the blood loss alone, you know, with the minimal medical knowledge I have, you know, that's going to make you very woozy. You're going to
yeah.
go in and out of consciousness. You know, not to mention the you know, blunt force trauma and getting hit with stuff. Just blood loss can make you do that kind of stuff. The fact that you were even able to move or be in and out is amazing. It's truly incredible.
So so initially when you saw him, when he came into the house, it was 3:00 in the morning.
that's what I'm thinking.
Roughly what time, can either of y'all answer, is it that he puts her out on the front porch and the deputy is able to get her? Are we talking?
It was still dark
Is it?
because he didn't see the deputy coming up, I don't think.
I don't think.
It's been so long, I don't remember. I
I'm,
don't know
I'm
if
just,
I have
I
a-
guess I'm just curious as to how long were you being
Before
were
police
you being
arrived, yeah.
abused like that before deputies were on the scene? In other words, you were able to make a phone call and they were
So
able to,
the call came in approximately at 03:35 hours. So I'm
So 3:35 in the morning,
Right.
the call came in.
Okay.
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 God, it's a half an hour.
and then that's when the call came in. So that was
And it's still
roughly
more.
35 minutes. Then
I don't have
And
the
it's still more from the call time they got there and all that.
actual call
Especially
times
after
with
he-
me, but
after he got
Okay.
agitated with
yeah,
the
I mean
call.
it was probably a good hour before we even got the call that he had been there.
yeah,
Right.
okay. That's what I was
yeah.
curious about. How long she had endured that.
Yeah, probably a good 45 minutes to an hour, I
Yeah.
would say. And then them getting there, because you're talking about East Dublin, or what do y'all call it over there?
Love it.
Love it.
What do
Over-
y'all call it over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't think of it. There's so many little,
There's
Yeah.
Lawrence
crazy
County
over
has
there,
like,
yeah.
what, 17 or
38 different
20
little
rural
cities.
fire departments. So, I mean, so you got to think, depending on where the deputies were, how long it took them to
Sure.
get there, without having the actual call in hand. I don't have the
Yeah.
actual time frame, but
So they're responding, Leslie, to a call that you put out as a domestic,
they respond lights and
Situation.
sirens.
and they responded pretty deep, wouldn't you say? That's 3 deputies.
Oh yeah, there was 3
That's-
there on initial because
Yeah.
it was.
They knew the seriousness of what was going on.
Oh yeah, I think they could hear it in my voice too.
Uh-huh.
Because I like I said, I mean, I just knew. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I actually.
I guess
wanted
you'd
ask
have
you-
to be in that situation before in your life to understand domestic violence and
It's a unique.
the urgency, I guess, maybe in someone's voice. It's I don't know how to explain it.
And I think I was yelling, help.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and there's just certain calls that you just get that gut feeling, and you just know. The thing with domestic violence, I will say, is a lot of times women are scared to call or do anything about it. I mean, we have
Sure.
so many every day that never do anything about it.
And-
They
and
just
by-
keep calling, we keep going, but nobody ever stops it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, there's no stopping point.
They
This
don't
is
follow
like
through.
they don't follow through.
Right.
You know, I just think there's just not enough information out there. There's not enough support system out there, groups or home. You know, we got Wings here in Dublin. That's the only
Right.
woman shelter, domestic violence shelter that I know of in this area.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
It is.
And I'm not saying it's just women, because men can be in domestic violence
Sure.
situations too. I mean, there's there has been times that it does happen. It's really weird to me to think of it like that, but because I've always been on the other side, I went through it during my childhood, and then, like I said, my teenage years. So it's just wide. I mean, one in every 5 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, I just read like 20
Yeah.
or
A
something
minute.
like that, 20 a minute now.
Yeah.
And now I know one thing that's changed law enforcement wise is domestic violence, especially when kids are involved. Used to, they just took the dad. It was always the dad's fault, Now you both go to jail.
Right,
You both will go to jail.
till they sort it out.
Yep. So I think that's a good thing. Because it's not always the guy's
Right,
fault.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Agreed.
yeah. So, but there just has to be more support and information and more shelters for women.
I agree, especially after reading the numbers and how similar they are to, your overdose numbers and your addiction numbers.
Yep.
And you can step outside today,
Find
throw
a
a
rehab.
rock and hit a rehab.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
And to have one for an area as big as Dublin Lawrence County,
Yep.
to have one little shelter for.
Well, the other thing is
domestic
mental
violence.
health.
Yeah.
My mom, I dealt with her in mental health since I was 10. So not trying to get off domestic violence, but some of it comes from mental health.
Sure.
And there's not, the last time my mom got really sick and mentally unstable, I had to take her all the way to Waycross just to get her some help.
Goodness.
So there's nothing in this area for mental health patients anymore either.
Right.
And that's really sad. That, because a lot of drug addiction comes from mental health.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
There's
it's
a
like,
huge correlation between the
where are we going wrong here? The government's focused on such stupid things and not trying to get into politics. But there really is a dire need for domestic violence and mental health in this country.
Agreed.
I could not agree more.
I agree.
Could not agree more.
Kim, let me ask you a question. I think this is a really important question. Do you remember your thought process of when you put that phone in that bedroom? Was it just a fluke? I'm just gonna put a phone in here, or was it like I'm gonna put a phone here in case I ever need it, or was it just happenstance that phone ended up in that bedroom?
Well, I guess decided to put it there in case Jenna called or whatever during the night, and I didn't have my cell phone with me because then I didn't keep it with me all the time.
Yeah.
It's like now it's the only phone we have.
Right.
But I just put it in there really in case somebody needed to call, and I wasn't in close to my phone,
And you needed to call.
and
How
I
about
needed to
that?
call.
Yeah. That's the one thing that
right.
caught my attention was that phone hadn't always been in
No.
there.
And he
Recently been
and
there,
he
yeah.
had no idea
Yeah.
it was there.
God works in mysterious
I know.
Yes,
That's where I was going with that.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you.
I tell you another thing that he does too is he puts people in our lives like he put you in Kim's life, Leslie, to continuously
friends ever
call,
since.
continuously call.
You couldn't have had you couldn't have had a better person to be on the other
Nope.
side of 911 that night.
Nope.
Oh, thank y'all. There's a lot of dispatchers that go way above and beyond that don't get the recognition they deserve. The state doesn't even, forever recognize us as first responders, but we are indeed the first responder.
The first
Absolutely.
responder.
So I'm a big advocate for my dispatchers. Like I said earlier, my daughter works at Walmart part-time and makes more than my dispatchers, which is sad in my opinion.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely.
And I will go to bat for them every day of the week to get them everything they deserve.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
dispatchers. I mean, I've been in 3 counties in my 20 years, and there's so many great dispatchers out there that, do what I do. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I went to college, got my degree for criminal justice, thinking, okay, I'm going to go to GBI or somewhere so I can retire, good with the state. And I'm like, I can't leave.
You can't leave it.
I can't leave it. I
Got
mean,
hard for it.
I left for 2 years. When I left Lawrence County, I left for 2 years, thinking, okay, I'll do something different maybe. I went right back. I called the sheriff in Blakely County. I was like, please, do you have something? I've got to get back. I tell everybody it's like the mafia. Once you're in, it's hard to get out. I mean, I just cannot, imagine. And now being director, it was like, at first when I was like, yeah, this would be great. I'll work, regular hours finally. It took me 15 years to get to director. But then once I got director, I was like, man, I miss dispatching. So I don't mind filling in where I have to fill in at, because I love the dispatching and I love, helping people. So that was, I guess that's just where, God, I truly believe God puts you where you're supposed to be, and that's where I'm supposed to be. Even though I'd love to make more money, everybody's like, well, you can go, I can go to Houston County and make way more. I'm not going to say it, like probably $10 more an hour than I make now. But it isn't always about the money. I'm home. My kids are there. My grandkids are there. And it's my community. It's my town.
Sure. I'm going to call about this tree. Ooh. I'm coming. Coming. Butt crack plumbing. I'm looking for the tree service. Yeah, that's what I meant. Timber tree service. I was seeing if you could come look at a tree for me next week. I could squeeze you in, man. I think I can squeeze you in.
Poor Peyton. Don't get tricked like Peyton. Call someone you can trust, like Buckeye Preferred Services. Over 35 years in the industry of tree work and removal, they are cutting out your problems, and you can reach them at 478-484-2178 or 478-278-5574. Also, we have got our black t-shirts in stock if you would like one, or if you like the advertising that we just did and would like to learn how you can advertise on our channel, you can reach us at coffeeandcatchuppc at gmail.com. Now, back to the podcast.
It's really a great, and I mean, if anybody's looking for a job, check out your 911 centers, because they are definitely needing help. And I speak for the Tri-County area, I know. They're constantly hiring. Pay ain't always great. Benefits are pretty good sometimes. But what I leave with at the end of the day is worth everything to me. And I guess that's what keeps me there.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, I think it's a lot like what Brian and I do, especially, doing a non-profit type rehab. It's definitely not about the money. We're doing okay, but it's about that heart. It's the passion for it.
The passion. That's definitely got to have that passion. It's just, I love going there because every day is different. I mean, you never know what you're walking into. Everybody's like, you could go to Geico and make so much more. And sit in a cubicle.
Sell insurance.
And do the same thing every day.
They got
no,
geckos
thank
for
you.
that.
No, yeah, I'm not.
People for that. They got geckos.
Yeah, I'm good where I'm at. Thank you, though. I'll just be broke, but I'm happy. So.
Well, thank you for what you do, Leslie.
Well, thank y'all for having us.
Thank you for what you do. Can we go back to when he got you off?
So you are now off the porch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deputy has come and got
you.
Put me in the back seat of his car.
Okay.
And drove me down the road to where the ambulance was.
Okay.
Because see, they had started then waking people up and getting them.
It got bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if y'all have read the stories or anything of how bad it got.
We tried to keep this as natural as we could today, so we haven't read anything. We are kind of finding all this out for the first time, but I'm assuming in a very standoff situation like that, anybody in the foreseen
Community,
danger area
yeah.
has got to go. Neighbors, all that kind of stuff. Hey, we've got a situation. Y'all need to get down the road. Same thing with your EMTs and your ambulances.
Right.
You don't want them
Right.
anywhere near where they could get hurt, because then you just have, they're just going to drive themselves in an ambulance. I'm not
Right.
sure how that'll work out.
It was parked down the road, so they had to take me to the ambulance.
Okay, so they get you there.
And then I go to Fairview, and then I end up in Macon at the trauma unit
Okay,
because they couldn't handle everything
I'd imagine not.
in Dublin. But this left arm was shattered. It was just hanging. So there's rods and pins in that arm, and this finger won't move anymore. I've had to have a couple more surgeries on it. But I had all of this across here was broke. I had 7 teeth knocked out. There was 39 staples, I think, put in the back of my head. I was bruised all over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
goodness. So what, the recovery on that, how long were you in the hospital for?
I was in the hospital for 6 days, I think it was. And then, bless my 2 girlfriends' hearts, I came home with one of them. And between the both of them, they looked after me day and night. My cast, they did the surgery. They had after I got to Macon, they did the trauma units. All the physicians got together and decided how they were going to try to do all this at once. Well, I had one doctor with my finger doing surgery and one doing the arm and putting the stitches and stuff. But then after I got home and went to my friend's house, it was like 6 months before I could drive my car. So it took a while. Plus, my house was destroyed, and we'll tell you about that. But yeah, it was a lot of going back and forth to Macon to doctors, going to dentists, going to eye doctors.
A lot of
whatever.
physical therapy.
Yeah, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of counseling.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. The PTSD that comes from domestic violence
Yeah.
is really bad. I'm sure Kim can speak to, like in relationships after domestic violence, it makes it really hard to trust people.
Sure.
So PTSD from domestic violence is a real thing. PTSD from being a 911 dispatcher is a real thing. And I think both of those fall short sometimes too.
Yeah, emotional trauma is very real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's very real, and can last for a long time,
But long story short, on the rest of it, after she was taken,
She's in
She's
the
gone.
deputy's car. She's in the EMT. We're Fairview. We're getting her sent out. So we're back on the porch, in the standoff. I'm assuming he's just got the pistol at this point in time. The shotgun is kind of useless, but
Yeah, he threw it out
okay.
and was like,
so they didn't. Yeah, he threw that out, but they didn't know he had the pistol,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
I think they did because he was, when he went.
Oh yeah, because he was pointing it at. That's what he was using when he was pointing it at you on the porch.
Right.
Now, had he fired it? Because when he stuck it in
He
your
said it
back
was
and
hot.
it was hot, he had already,
He must have.
Yeah, he had to.
See, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
you was
remember.
unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was warm and that.
That's
was
right,
warm.
because he was saying, he was like basically daring them to come
Taunting
get
them.
you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take
Yeah.
another step type
Yeah,
talk.
I dare you. You know,
Yeah.
that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like to the deputies, let me see you come get her.
Yeah.
And of course he had the pistol. But after that, then they try, while I'm in Macon, they have the hospital locked down, so because they don't know what he's going to do, and so then at home during all of this, they trying to talk to him and trying to get him to come out. Of course, before I was out, I was like, just leave. Just leave. I mean, even before the deputies got there, I was like, just get in your truck and leave.
Right.
You know, just go. But no. And I think one of the things, I'm going to go back a little bit, one of the things that probably saved me was I got on my knees and I just started rocking back and forth, and I just kept saying, I've got to live for Jenna. I got to live for Jenna. I got to live for Jenna. Because that's all I could think of with my daughter. That she's the only child I have.
Right.
And it's just me and her. It was just me and her. And that was all I could do. And after that, he finally put me out. But going back to him, they couldn't talk him out.
And he was in the house at this point. He was locked himself in the house.
He had locked himself in the house, and from what I understand, he had turned furniture over. He had damaged the house. He had got it all through the house to where if they came in on him, it was a maze.
Gotcha.
He had moved all the furniture where he could get around, but they couldn't. And Leslie, you'll know more because they called the SWAT team in.
Yeah, they called them all.
GBI, the State Patrol.
Good.
Which is what they normally do for a standoff. I mean, because ultimately, the ultimate goal is for everybody to go home.
Sure.
Even him. Everybody's got to go home. That's what That's what we go. That's what we aim for in every situation. That everybody goes home. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. It got very violent. Lots of shots fired. Of course, I wasn't there. Thank God. I don't want to. I give huge kudos to my LEOs and EMTs and firefighters for going to these scenes because I couldn't do it. I mean, let me just stay back here. Those front line, that's everything. They really put in that, but I know it got bad. Of course, I can't really say 100% what happened because I wasn't there. I just remember the stories vaguely of how it all went down, but it was bad, and a lot of shots were fired, and ultimately he didn't make it.
He would come out one door shooting at them and run in another, the back door, is what he would do, they said. And I think the last time that he came out, he had it taped to his hand so he wouldn't drop it. And he had the pistol taped to his hand. And actually, we went to get the pistol because I just thought it would be fine, okay, I'll just go pick up the pistol after all this was over. But no, a shot had actually gone right in the barrel that they had shot at him.
Yeah.
So, but, he was eventually killed.
So, and with taping the gun to his eye, there's no... Now you can't even drop the gun and try to turn it. There's no
turning back.
There's no other way to go about this at this point in time. There's...
It sounds to me like he came out there to die, and so die he did.
He did. Yeah. I mean, I tried everything I knew to say to him when I wasn't unconscious, but I mean, I tried everything I knew to say to get him out.
I hate to ask this question, and I know you may not be able to answer this, but why do you think he did not kill you and kill himself, which is what he said he was going to do after when he first came in there? What made him not do that?
I don't know. In fact, I think he thought I had lost so much blood
That you were going to die?
that I was going to die.
That might have been his thought process, just let you die slowly like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
I really think because he told me, he says, I think I've already killed you. Look at the blood loss.
And a lot of domestic violence situations like that are murder, suicide.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it ultimately ends, unfortunately. The drugs definitely did not help in that situation. I think maybe if he wasn't so impaired, maybe he could have been talked down. Maybe, I don't know, because I didn't know him. But I'm always hopeful in a situation like that. You know, you can help somebody come to their senses before they do something, too crazy.
Take it too far.
Yeah, but then it was too. He'd already took it too far. There was
Yeah.
no. I knew when I called and I heard him, and like I said, it comes from experience, I guess. Unfortunately, it's not a good feeling, but it's a gut feeling. Like just his tone, and it was almost you could see his face in the tone that he spoke to me in.
Right.
That it was just too far gone. He was too far gone.
And I understand the drugs and alcohol, obviously, that played a part in what happened, but I think it's shocking to me that was the first time that he ever laid hands on you was that night.
Yeah,
And it was to that degree.
right.
Unbelievable.
It's like he
It
got those
is.
papers and just completely
Yeah,
snapped.
that was it.
Well,
Totally
and then you got to throw in steroids.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
roid rage
That is
is
true.
a thing.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
Yeah, so
Absolutely it is.
you really never know.
And he was like that. When he would exercise, whatever he did it to extreme.
Sure.
If it was exercise, if it was drinking, if it was, work, anything. It was always,
All in.
and then when he would quit exercising, it was the other way. So, whatever he did,
That addictive personality, that all or nothing.
It's almost like when Derek asked the question, why didn't he just like kill you and then kill himself? It's almost like when you said that he thought he had killed you, that it would kind of end it for him if he did shoot you. He was just going to let you just
Suffer.
slowly bleed out and suffer.
right, because
And of course, I don't know that, but that kind of makes sense in my head that maybe had been his thought process, that he
and I
just
think
felt like
that's
you were
probably what would have happened if I hadn't called.
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, there's
And I know with no doubt in my mind that if I hadn't kept calling back and kept calling back and kept calling, like it got to the point where he knew he had to answer. They were
Yeah.
coming anyway.
Right.
So yeah, it was too far gone.
you
And he
wasn't gonna
knew
quit
it.
calling, were you, girl?
No. No, there's, like I said, anytime we get a 911 hang up, and most agencies are, I'm sure are all like this, but you have to call back,
Sure.
at least once. And a lot of times it's, a butt dial, but there is that one chance, that it's going to be something that, had you not called back, had we not called back, there's no telling how much she would have endured before we was able to talk to her or get the call.
Well, you hadn't dispatched them until when? The deputies.
When
When you talked to her?
The first call come in to my partner. And that's when I heard the screaming and it disconnected. So then he tried to call back and he couldn't get nothing. So then I started calling back and I just, like I said, I just kept. But once I heard the screaming, they had already been dispatched.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that after that
Yeah.
very first call,
Oh
you
yeah.
sent them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you hear that kind of screaming,
yeah,
it's time for
that's
them.
not a butt dial.
No, that's not a butt dial.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of times, like I said, what's so sad is they just never follow through. Like, you would be amazed at how many domestic violence calls we get from the same people who never do anything about it.
Right.
Whether there's kids involved. And I mean, without going in detail, I know what that feels like. I know how that works. Sometimes you think you just, maybe it's easier to stay. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people just, they scared. They're
Sure.
scared. And but you need to make a plan.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You need to make a plan. You need
That's
to
a
make
very
a
good
plan
point.
and get out.
Yeah.
I mean, call somebody.
Because
Anything, just make that plan, even if you need somebody to help you make that plan,
Yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah.
to
here's
get
the
out.
thing, one day you may not be able to make that plan.
Right.
Right.
That was what I wanted to ask both of you. What would you say to our audience, and whether that be signs, y'all just answered a piece of it, make a plan, for somebody to not go through what you went through? What would be, and either one of y'all go first, what would be your words to them if they are thinking maybe he or she has that capability because of these things, these red flags, or whatever the case may be? What would you say to that person? Because part of y'all coming on here, we all hope that if it reaches one person,
Right.
that it was worth
Well,
all of
Yep.
us,
Right.
sitting down and discussing this, and y'all going through it again and playing it back in your head. What would you say? One of you take the
Well, I
lead
think
here.
like with Kim, like she said, sure there was verbal abuse. So if there's verbal abuse, there's your sign. It's time to go.
There's potential for more.
It's time to go.
Absolutely.
Good point.
If they're downgrading you, they don't love you, and it's time to go. If there's a lack of respect or anything, then it's time to go because it's only going to escalate.
Right.
But if you don't have time for a plan, then make time, because if you don't, you may run out of time. Kim was very, very lucky and very fortunate that God seen it was not her time to go.
Right.
Right.
But not everybody's that lucky. And if you see something, say something. Because a lot of times, you'd be surprised at how many times you may be in a Walmart parking lot and look over into the car beside you and a man's beating a woman and nobody says anything. But there's that one chance, if you are the one to say something, that you might prevent her being killed later.
Right. Going so much worse.
So there's always a chance to say something if you see something. And if you're in an environment and you're scared to get out, don't be scared. I think a lot of women, like back in the day, I think a lot of women think they can't make it on their own. I did. I thought, well, I will never make it on my own. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah,
It takes
agree.
time. It takes time. You got, you'll find your inner strength you didn't even know you had. But don't stay in a situation like that. It's not right. It's not fair to you. And do not stay for your kids. Do not stay for your kids.
That's probably the biggest lie that we
Right.
tell
It drives me.
ourselves.
Because I know. But do not, because, my childhood was kind of rough. And it was always, well, I don't want, I can't do it on my own. Or, I don't want my kids to be without their father, da-da-da-da. Do not stay for your kids. Because if you do, there's a chance they're not going to have you.
Right.
Plain and simple. So, that's about all I can say about it.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of that. And like you said, if you don't have time to make a plan, but most of the time you do,
Oh, yeah.
because there's that.
You got time for everything
Yeah,
if you make time for it.
There's those things those little red flags that may happen here, and then another one a month later, and then another one. And it's like, okay, I've got to do something. I'm going to talk to my best friend, and I'm going to ask her, can she help me? Can I come stay with her until I can
Something. There's somebody out there that will help you.
Yeah,
Whether it be a preacher,
yeah.
you know, a person in the hospital staff. I mean, somebody knows what it's like, whether they've seen it, endured it, whatever. Don't be afraid to leave, because somebody will help you. There's people that will help you. Even though we don't have women's shelters like they should be, or domestic violence classes and this, that, and the other, there's people out here that will help you. You can go to your preacher, you can go to a school teacher, you can go to a nurse, you can go to the police station, you know, in fire department. I mean, there's plenty of people that will help you. You just got to be brave enough to take that step and ask for it.
Put that first foot forward.
Yep.
But
And
don't
keep
stay.
walking.
Don't stay. Just don't stay.
All right.
Don't be scared and don't stay. And do not stay for your kids, because they will never, you know, you would think 3 years old, you know, and seeing stuff like that, you would think they'd forget. They don't forget.
No, not
They
at
don't
3.
forget. They don't forget.
Not at 3.
No.
Well, I again just want to thank the both of y'all so much.
Absolutely.
This has
Thank
been
y'all for
such
having us.
Such a powerful story, such an opportunity. You both did fantastic. We are extremely grateful that y'all made the effort to come on the podcast with us. And like I said, I just know somebody is going to hear something.
Yep.
Somebody's
I
gonna
hope
get
so,
something
'cause
very
that-
powerful out
Yeah.
of this.
That's, you know, I've always said since this happened that was my goal, to help one person, to be able to, you know, help somebody that.
And I know she
have to
has.
go
I know
through.
she has.
Oh, I'm sure.
doubt.
I'm sure.
And going to continue to.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
Kim.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I do want to thank the 3 deputies that got there first, because they really put their life on the line, as well as all the rest of them. But Dustin Renfro, Brian Thomas, and Brian Scott, they were the first one, the first 3 there. And
Yeah.
and so
Yeah,
and
that's
Leslie,
good right there.
Leslie was my lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll always
Yep.
say that. Leslie was my lifeline. And all 4 of those are my heroes.
I guarantee you.
That's incredible. Yeah, again, thank you so much. Yeah, and for anybody listening, if you're not sure, that I think I Googled domestic violence awareness and came up with so much information. You know, any starting place is a good starting place. You know, all the ones that Brian and Kim and Leslie discussed, you know, Google it, call whatever. Just take that first step, please. Take that first step and reach out. We are continuing to grow. We are continuing to be able to have episodes like this, very powerful episodes, very rewarding episodes, and hopefully many episodes for y'all as well. We appreciate all y'all's continued support. Be sure to like the video, comment down below, give these 2 ladies some encouragement for doing this. You know, let them know that you appreciate their vulnerability on coming on here and sharing this kind of stuff, because I know we sure did.
Let me hop in, Chris.
Go ahead.
If you don't normally share our podcast every week to your Facebook page or other platforms, totally understand. But this is one that we seriously are asking you to share, because you just don't know.
Yes.
You just don't know who's on your friends list that may be going through something like this. That just by sharing Kim and Leslie's story today, you can help them find a solution to a problem they've been probably praying for. So share this one all around, man. Get the word out, and let's see what kind of lives and differences we can make.
I just wanted to throw one more thing out there too, because a lot of people do not know this. If you have a cell phone that does not have service, you can still dial 911.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know,
Even
Put
a
a
flip
phone-
phone.
put a phone on silent somewhere that you only know about. If you're in that bad of a situation, put it on silent. Put it somewhere you could get to. It doesn't have to have service. You can still call 911. You know, just call. Just call. I mean,
Yeah. Just reach out.
don't stay. No, it's just not going to be worth it in the end.
And I want to say too, and I say this, I think it at the end of everything I've done that where I spoke about my story, but thank your 911 operators and your deputies, your police, because they saved my life,
Yep.
and yours might be next.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't never know.
Right.
But they did. They saved me. Them and the good Lord, thank you. And my angels up above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here today.
And we're so glad that they did. We're so glad that you called, and we're so glad that you made it out.
Yes.
Again, definitely don't be scared. Reach out. Take that first step and reach out. As Brian was saying, share this video. Let's get this message out here. It's too powerful to let it just kind of circle around our usual audience. Share it everywhere. Like the video, comment down below. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Again, thank you to Buckeye Preferred Services as always, and all their continued support. Reach out to us. Brian has lied to me for the last 2 or 3 weeks about T-shirts. I don't even know if black T-shirts even exist at this point in time. They may not ever happen. But don't worry, because we'll still take payments for them. Listen, they should be here. The last date we've got is Tuesday of this week. So tomorrow, as of when this is coming out.
Sounds good, Chris.
Yeah.
I want a
see
black
what
and red
happens.
one.
I promise you, we're going to do it at some point in time. And one day, now that I've spoke the Etsy thing into existence, I'm actually going to have to sit down and do it. But we're going to try to streamline our merch process on Etsy, and we'll see what happens. But until the next one, y'all be safe out there and continue to share this podcast. We appreciate it, y'all. Peace.